get analysis on this now from Javier Abu-Eid, who joins me from Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. He's a political scientist and the former communication advisor to the Palestinian Liberation Organization. Welcome to you, sir. What do you think the concern... I mean, people aren't being banned, as I understand, at the moment in terms of their applications, but they put a pause in it, they're reviewing. What is the concern here? How might Gazans pose a threat to US security?
I think it's on the other way around, Neil. Those people have been affected by the Israeli use of U.S. weapons in the context of the genocide. And therefore, I think the U.S. should start thinking about how to engage in compensations to those people instead of pushing them away. And I think it's very important for our viewers to understand that those people are not going there out of U.S. charity, are mainly people that are going on projects that are being paid by Palestinian Americans or Arab Americans in very heavy prices. So it's not like they're going to the U.S. seeking charity. They're actually going to pay for the medical treatments because of the genocide that's taking place in Gaza.
I'm still trying to understand, though, why are these few Republican and far-right officials concerned? What is their worst-case scenario here?
I think it's just a matter of populism, and it also shows that the U.S. does not have any sort of policy when it comes to Palestine and the region in general. We still haven't seen what their end game is. It's not only about people being able to receive medical treatment in the U.S. We're also talking about what's going on here. U.S. officials cannot even give a position, for example, when it comes to the latest approvals of colonial settlements here in the occupied West Bank, like the E1 project, for example. They don't have a position anymore on what the future of Gaza will be. One day they say everyone has to get out. The other day they say that they want to bring aid to people in Gaza. So it basically shows that they don't have a policy. It's basically everything it's linked to domestic considerations and the populism that we have seen so far in the Trump administration.
One of the aid organisations that helps to organise these, what are effectively medical rescues of people who are in urgent need of medical aid, and obviously it isn't there in Gaza, so they help bring them over to the United States. And according to the numbers they put out, they said that almost half the people that they brought to the US for assistance were children. So you've effectively got, almost half of the people coming over are children. And I mean, I would have thought that those children would be grateful because they're getting medical assistance from the United States. So aren't the people coming over more likely to be grateful than anything?
Neil, I think what you're saying is correct, but I think the problem with your analysis is that it's a very rational analysis. I don't think the U.S. is designing policy here, or it has any policy that's based on rationality. It's based on other sort of interests. I don't know if anyone has heard from any Trump administration official anything that is coherent. In fact, what we hear, for example, from the Trump ambassador, the U.S. ambassador to Israel, is that a Palestinian state could be declared in France or in Saudi Arabia. I mean, that's a level that we are facing now from the U.S. administration. So if we are to consider foreign policy to be an extension of domestic policy, it should not surprise anyone that because of a few populist voices in the U.S., this whole program to provide medical support for mainly Palestinian children affected by the Israeli genocide in Gaza has been halted.
Do you see this as maybe a worrying trend? I mean, we've seen a heavy focus from the Trump administration on removing people they call illegal foreigners, people who've got into the country without permission. But these are people who are coming in on legitimate visas. But, I mean, do you see it as perhaps a worrying trend of the direction things might be going in?
I think, Neil, it's not a trend. It's just how things are. But probably, if we are going to talk about this in the context of a trend, it's basically how to show how anti-Palestinian an administration can be, and that's something that we already saw, for example, with the announcement against PLO and PA officials a few weeks ago. By the way, PLO officials have been banned from the U.S. for decades. It's not something new. The announcement the U.S. presented, it was much more about the message than the substance. It was about reaffirming once again how anti-Palestinian some U.S. politicians want to be, especially when you're talking about a PA administration that the U.S. never actually had a Palestinian administration willing to compromise and to go under their terms more than what you have now. And yet they are imposing quote-unquote sanctions, which once again are not new. All I'm trying to say here is that for some politicians in the Trump administration, being anti-Palestinian is part of the credential that unfortunately they have to show.
Javier, pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much for your time. My guest is Javier Abu Eid, who's a former communication advisor to the PLO.
Thank you, Neil.